So what's happening here is that they're building a new housing development, and part of that development involves the building of a new access road. And as you can see, we've got a river to span, so we've got to build a bridge. Part of the planning process, and part of that process will be to consider all forms of contamination and risk, and one of those contaminants is UXO, unexploded ordnance. So the first thing they have done is a UXO risk assessment for the site, and they'll go to a company like Fellows, and we'll produce a full risk assessment for the site, and we look into the World War II history, bombing history, World War I, or any military activity that's taken place in the area, and then from that we'll recommend some sort of mitigation. So a UXO risk assessment's been done for this site. It's been deemed a medium risk site because of its location. A lot of factories around here producing various things for the war effort, so it was a target for the Luftwaffe. For that reason, it was deemed a at-risk site. So the mitigation that we're putting in now is we're carrying out a what's called a magnetometer probe test, intrusively surveying what will be the piling positions for the new bridge. Fellows were one of the first commercial companies to be doing this type of UXO risk management work. Started back in the early 90s when this was still a fledgling sort of industry for dealing with this sort of risk. So we've got over 20 years experience in the field. Our guys are all ex-military within the office, backroom staff, and the guys out on the ground holding top-level EOD qualifications, all with operational experience. Part of the risk assessment involves looking at the maximum penetration depth that we'd expect to find a bomb at. So you could say something like a 250 kilo bomb. You would try and work out, given the geology of the area, what sort of depth we would expect to find it at. Now, the depths that we're talking about are beyond what we call a non-intrusive survey could detect. So that would be a guy walking around the surface with a metal detector. He wouldn't have the capability of detecting something that deep. So what we can use is the CPT rig, which will push the probe into the ground, and we can clear each piling position to the maximum depth that we would expect to find an unexploded bomb. And also, not so much on this site because it's undeveloped land, but when you're talking in central London on previously developed ground, we've got what's called made ground. So there's various contaminants already within that first, say, 1 or 2 meters plus that again would interfere with magnetometer equipment. So by using the CPT, you can actually push past that made ground into that sort of virgin soil, and then you get a much clearer picture of what's beneath that made ground. Magnetometry is picking up the magnetic signature of that metal item, so that ferrous metal item in the ground, interacting with the Earth's magnetic field, and that's what it's detecting, that difference within that variation within the magnetic field. From the size of that signature, you can tell its depth, its orientation, and things like that. All the data is collected on a program. That software will then go back to the in situ guys that analyse that data, and that will come through to us, and then we will look at that, and any anomalies detected we can look at the size, the depth, and then from that decide what would need to be investigated. So this is a sort of medium-sized type project, and that would take us about 20 days to complete, with the logistics involved in moving the pontoon rig around, and so it's not your normal everyday type CPD job that you might get in central London.